You've probably heard that making $1 million is hard. But here's the truth no one tells you. Making your first $10,000 is way harder. Sounds crazy, right? But ask anyone who's built real wealth. They'll nod silently, because they remember. Right now, you might be checking your bank account before every gas fill up, wondering how you worked 40 hours this week and still can't afford a $300 emergency, paying rent with 2 days to spare, telling yourself, one day it'll get better. But that day doesn't arrive on its own. You have to build it, dollar by dollar, decision by decision. Once you cross that $10,000 line, everything changes. You stop panicking. You start planning. You stop reacting. You begin designing your life. In a country where 57% of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency, and where 40% overdraft at least once a year, just having $10,000 puts you in the top tier of financial stability. It gives you room. It gives you time. It gives you power. And that's just the beginning. Because after $10,000 comes $100,000. Then $1 million. Then more. And each level doesn't just change your money. It rewires your mindset, confidence, and identity. So what really happens after $10,000? That's where the real game begins. Let's talk about it. You're not rich. But for the first time, you're not afraid. Let's be clear, $10,000 won't change your zip code. It won't buy a house. It won't pay off your student loans. But it does something more powerful. It turns off the fear. For the first time, you can say, if my car breaks down, I'm covered. If I lose my job, I have 2 months to figure it out. If my dog needs surgery, I don't have to borrow from 3 credit cards. In a country where 6 in 10 adults live paycheck to paycheck, having $10,000 in the bank quietly separates you from the crowd. You're still grinding, but now you're grinding with a parachute. But here's what no one tells you. $10,000 feels invisible until you don't have it. Mini story. One girl I met was a barista in Austin, saving every tip. She skipped brunch for 6 months. Sold clothes online. One night, she checked her account, $10,043. She cried, not because she was rich, but because for the first time, she didn't feel trapped. This is the shift. You move from reaction to preparation, from fear to breathing room. This tiny buffer, it changes how you walk, sleep, and negotiate. Because once you hit $10,000, you stop asking, can I survive? And start asking, how far can I go? You're done surviving. Now you're choosing. Hitting $100,000 doesn't just change your finances. It changes your relationship with time, risk, and identity. Because now, for the first time in your life, you don't have to say yes out of fear. You can walk away from jobs that drain you. Say no to toxic managers. Say yes to a trip, a sabbatical, a side project, and not panic. You're not just paying bills anymore. You're buying options. Before $100,000, you work for every dollar. After $100,000, some dollars start working for you. Mini story. A friend of mine hit $100,000 and finally quit the soul-sucking tech job she hated. She moved to Colorado, hiked every day, journaled, reconnected with herself. 3 months later, she started a freelance writing business. It grew to 6 figures the next year. None of that happens when you're stuck in survival mode. The math. $100,000 at 8% equals $667 per month. That's rent in a dozen US cities. It's not wealth, but it's breathing room with power. And here's the secret no one talks about. Once you hit $100,000, your money starts working harder than you. Compound interest becomes a quiet force, growing while you sleep. You're still grinding, but now you're grinding on your own terms. And that shift doesn't just change your spending, it changes the direction of your entire life. You feel relaxed until something hits. $500,000 sounds like freedom, but in today's America, it's more like a fragile pause. You've got cushion. You're not stressing at the grocery store. You can book a flight without checking your account 3 times. But here's the catch. One big hit, and that comfort cracks. Mini story. A guy I know hit $450,000 and celebrated by leasing a Tesla. 6 months later, he got laid off. That $1,200 per month car payment? It haunted him every night. From confident to cornered. That's the danger at this level. You look rich, but you're still vulnerable. Caution. A divorce. $40,000 retainer. Medical emergency. $80,000 bill. Market crash. Your portfolio drops 6 figures overnight. And here's the hidden cost. Once people think you've made it, you start spending to maintain the image. You wear the "I'm successful" mask. But inside, if I make one bad move, I'm back at zero. Lesson. This isn't full freedom. It's an illusion of safety dressed up in lifestyle upgrades. So if you're here, or heading there, keep your guard up. Because at $500K, the storm doesn't warn you before it hits. And that brings us to the next level. The first real threshold of financial freedom. $1 million. You can finally stop doing what you hate. Let's kill the fantasy. $1 million in 2025 doesn't make you rich. Not in New York. Not in LA. Not with inflation, student loans, and healthcare premiums climbing every year. But here's the shift that no one talks about. It buys you the power to say no. No to toxic clients. No to 6 a.m. commutes. No to spending your time in ways that drain you. You still budget. You still compare flights. You're not flying private, but you are finally in control. Mini story. When I hit $1 million, I didn't buy anything fancy. I didn't upgrade my car. I didn't move. I just stopped replying to emails that made my stomach twist. That silence. That was the luxury. The truth. $1 million doesn't mean freedom from responsibility. It means freedom from desperation. And this is where the identity shift begins. You stop chasing survival and start aligning your time with your values. It's not about status. It's about space. And that space, between what you have to do and what you choose to do. That's where a whole new version of you starts to show up. But be warned. You're not safe from the storms just yet. Because $1 million might buy peace of mind. But it still can't buy immunity. That comes next. You're rich on paper. But pressure never left. You make $200,000 a year in passive income. You live in a good zip code. Your kids go to private school. You drive a luxury car, but lease it. You've made it, right? Here's the hidden reality. At $5 million, you have everything to lose, and no permission to fall. Mini story. A dad of 2 with $5.2 million told me, "I make more from dividends than I ever did from working. But I still feel broke living in Manhattan." Property taxes, health insurance, nanny, mortgage. Everything scales with you, and so does the fear. Danger zone. You're the wealthiest person in the group chat, but the only one who wakes up at 3 a.m. wondering, what happens if it all disappears? You can't complain, because people think you're rich. But you also can't relax, because deep down, you're rich enough to be watched, but not rich enough to stop running. And here's the twist. You can afford the lifestyle, but you still can't afford to lose control. At $5 million, freedom feels close, but fragile. Because you're no longer working for money. You're working to protect what you've built. But what if I told you, the real freedom doesn't start until $10 million? You can afford anything, except chaos. At $10 million, you stop trading time for money. You buy back your mornings. You hire out the stuff that drains you, email, errands, even decisions. But here's the secret. This level isn't about what you buy. It's about what you no longer have to tolerate. Mini story. A woman I interviewed had $11 million. She paid $90 a week for an assistant to manage her inbox. Not because she couldn't handle email, but because mental clarity was worth more than convenience. The upgrade. You no longer chase ROI. You chase peace of mind. At $10 million, you can say no to drama, no to people who drain you, no to anything that costs your peace. But here's the part no one tells you. The fear doesn't vanish. It evolves. Now you worry about a $2 million divorce, a bad investment tanking your portfolio, a lawsuit from someone who thinks you're an easy target. You're no longer building wealth. You're protecting it. And that means the cost of mistakes is bigger than ever. Because when you have $10M, you stop playing to win. You start playing not to lose. So what happens when money truly stops being the point? That begins at $25 million. Emergencies become inconveniences. At $25 million, life feels like a different game. You no longer have to think twice about anything. Car broke down. Just buy a new one. That hospital bill, covered with no stress. A vacation in Bali, you book it, last minute, no problem. You're never checking prices. You don't ask if it's worth it. You just ask, does this light me up? Mini story. A startup founder I know lost $600,000 in a bad investment. His assistant told him at lunch. He calmly finished his sandwich because he knew it didn't matter. The money would come back. At $25 million, you stop chasing. You stop hustling for every dollar. Instead, you curate your life. You create experiences. You choose peace. Shift. No longer is it about, how do I earn more? Now it's about, how do I feel better? You start prioritizing health, happiness, and legacy. But here's the hidden cost of this stage. You realize you've bought comfort, not immunity. You're no longer working for more. You're working for the right reasons. But be careful. At $25 million, you stop measuring your worth by money. But you still have to measure your decisions with care. Because, yes, nothing hurts anymore. But the fear of losing it all never fully goes away. You can have anything. And that's the problem. At $100 million, you've won the money game. Private jets? Sure. Beachfront real estate? Anywhere. Legacy trusts, hedge funds, multi-home portfolios? All checked. But here's the paradox. When you can buy anything, nothing feels exciting anymore. Mini story. One of my mentors, worth $140 million, once said, I'd give it all up to be 28 again, and hungry. He wasn't joking. Because at this level, money fades into background noise. You don't chase it. You manage it. And then, you wonder what it was all for. Here's the uncomfortable truth. $10,000 changes your survival. $100,000 changes your options. $1 million changes your identity. $100 million changes nothing. Unless you remember who you were when you had nothing. At $100 million, you realize money was never the reward. The climb was. The scrappy nights, the impossible goals, the fire to prove something. That's what gave it all meaning. So if you're still building, still grinding, still broke, still unsure, you're not behind. You're in the best part. Because someday, someone with $100 million will look at you and wish they could feel that fire again. Don't waste it. If you're broke, young, or just getting started, this is your edge. The fire, the hunger, the urgency you feel now? People with $100 million would pay anything to feel that again. Don't waste it chasing lifestyle. Chase leverage. Chase freedom. Your first $10,000 won't change your world, but it will change you. And once you change, the rest will follow. If this hit you, like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe. Because we're just getting started.